Hi, I'm Tony Nichols, and welcome to Chamber Chat. Hi, I'm Tony Nichols, and welcome to Chamber Chat, a program put together by the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce to keep you informed on what's going on in your chamber and in your community. Joining us today is Phil Kraus, Director of Operations for K&L Microwave. Welcome to the program.
Yes, thanks for having me.
It's actually ironic, actually, for a company like K&L Microwave to be a staple in the community as it is and has been for so many years, that we have never had you guys on Chamber Chat. So we're certainly glad you're here.
Yes, excellent.
So everyone has heard of or knows someone who has worked with K&L Microwave. But I wonder if everyone really knows what K&L Microwave is. So would you tell us, please?
Yeah, probably not. We do not do anything with microwave ovens. So we get that quite a bit. People come by with their microwaves. But we actually make microwave filters.
No, stop. They do not come by with their microwaves.
Oh, yeah, they do. Yeah, we have had on occasion someone come with their microwave oven saying, "Can you fix this?" Yes.
All right. Yeah.
So
for those people, let's point them in a different direction.
Yes. They can buy a new one, probably cheaper.
That's right.
Cheaper these days. So we make microwave and RF filter products and filter-related assemblies. Mm-hmm. So our product we like to categorize as product that helps connect and protect people. So for instance, our filters enable people to utilize their cell phones. Our filters could be located in base stations at cell towers. Mm-hmm. Our filters help protect because our filters go into the military and homeland security businesses. So utilized to help protect our soldiers, protect our allies, and protect us here at home.
So we're all around us, the towers that we drive by every day could, be K&L filters in those towers.
At the base of those towers.
Right.
I'd like to explain it. Sometimes my family and friends say, what exactly does K&L do? And it's sometimes difficult to explain, but one of the easier explanations, if you think of spaghetti in a colander and you're rinsing it out, the water goes through and the spaghetti stays. Well, our filters do the same thing, but for electrical waves. So letting certain frequencies pass through and others not, enable you to use your cell phone and not hear everyone else's conversation, for example.
Gotcha. So, in the opening, I was talking about how K&L, I've been here 14 years, and there's always been a K&L Microwave. And to listen to people talk, you think that, K&L Microwave has been here forever. How long has there been a K&L Microwave?
Yeah, so K&L started with Dick Bernstein in 1970 here in Salisbury. And then in 1983, we were acquired by Dover Corporation. Now, Dover is a conglomerate of manufacturing companies throughout the world. Yeah. It's a $7 billion company, wow. And again, it's worldwide. But interestingly enough, the CEO of Dover Corporation is Bob Livingston. Bob Livingston started his career with Dover here at K&L Microwave, and actually is a graduate of Salisbury University.
So K&L was the founder of the microwave industry in Wicomico County, if you will.
Yes, a lot of companies spurred, but it started with Dick Bernstein and K&L Microwave in 1970.
And it's become quite a thriving industry. I mean, there's ebbs and flows with the contracts as they come and go. We've all heard those stories as well. But it's pretty cool that you're working with a company, as you have for so long, that was maybe not the pioneer in the industry, but certainly a founding pioneer in the area to impact jobs, people, manufacturing locally.
Right, exactly.
So over the years, K&L has been involved in the community, and I don't name a way that you haven't been involved, but tell us a little bit about how you guys view the community, the impact you have on the community, and maybe what we can continue to expect in the future.
Yeah, so we impact the community in a couple of different ways. One is that we're a significant employer, and we employ people that have studied STEM, science, technology, engineering, math. So we have a whole host of job categories, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, but we also have assembly and tuning of our product. We also have materials management, machine shop, surface finishing, quality, HR, IT, the whole gambit. So we're a very vertically run organization and therefore need a lot of skill sets. So that's one way K&L certainly impacts the area. The other is that we have, and this has been in the last 12 months, where we've created a steering committee for corporate giving.
Okay.
And it's a cross-functional group of employees throughout the organization, about a dozen or so, and they go out and do community projects. So most recently, they built a ramp down near Crisfield for someone that was in need. Just the other week, Blind Industries and Services of Maryland, our neighbor on Northwood Drive, dedicated a walking path. Well, our corporate giving gave 2 picnic tables for that path. Other projects, we have a bench over at Coastal Hospice at Deer's Head. We've helped sponsor a Little League. We helped with a food drive for the Maryland Food Bank. So just a host of items in the community trying to connect K&L with our local community.
It's, you know, it's the same story over and over again in Salisbury. We're so blessed to have, you know, businesses and people within those businesses that truly do understand the idea of community and giving back. So once again, we're seeing it in K&L Microwave as just every person that sits in that chair on the show, and we'll have some other guests that are doing the identical same thing. So it's really cool to be in this area. You talk about giving back to the community. Is there a way that you guys plug into the business community and foster relationships there as well? Yeah, certainly. We're very vertically integrated, but at times when we have spikes in demand, we'll certainly work with our local suppliers. So we have local machine shops and local services, and we have 3 relatively large facilities in Salisbury, 2 on Northwood Drive and 1 on Brown Street. And to run those facilities, we require and rely on local businesses to help us maintain both from a facility standpoint as well as a product standpoint. Very good. So it's not only the, you know, the big company, because you know, in Salisbury, while from a global standpoint it's not a big company, but the footprint here in Salisbury, it's a big company. Yes. So it's good to be involved not only in the business side, but in the everyday lives of people as well. Yeah, I was looking at some notes from the National Association of Manufacturers, and they say for every $1 spent in manufacturing, it equals $1.81 to the economy. Plus, for every job in manufacturing, it equals over 3 jobs elsewhere as it relates to manufacturing. Right. So certainly K&L has an impact in the local community. Well, it certainly made an impact for many years, and we look forward to K&L making a continued impact for many years to come. Excellent. Phil, thanks for joining us on Thank you for having me. Chat. We'd like to give you the opportunity now to take a look at the upcoming events with the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce. Welcome back to Chamber Chat right here on PAC 14. Joining us now is no stranger to the program, Kevin Justice, the Executive Director of M4 Reactor. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Things have changed quite a bit in the last year, but before we jump into those, if there are there might be a few people out there that still hasn't heard or maybe don't know what M4 Reactor is. So why don't you give us a little overview of what it is?
Yeah, so M4 Reactor is the area's only community makerspace. And a makerspace is basically a place where people with similar interests get together and share ideas and knowledge and equipment to make things. It really is as simple as that, and our objective is to help people learn how to make things. And in terms of what they make, it could be anything from very simple woodworking all the way through robotics and 3D printing. So a wide gamut of things and a lot of equipment that we have as well.
Yeah. Some of the meetings that you have are called meetups?
Yes.
So what is a meetup?
So this isn't our terminology. There's actually meetups for all sorts of things in the area. And if you go to meetup.com, you'll find everything from groups that play drums on the beach to book clubs. But all of our meetups are free to the public, and they're usually around a topic of some sort. Like last week we had our first cosplay meetup, which has to do with people making costumes like for Comic-Con and that sort of thing. Many times though, those are very sophisticated, and a lot of the people at M4 are making costumes that are more automated, have robotics built into them, have lights built into them, made out of certain types of plastics and things. So it's not just like sewing together a Spider-Man costume.
Right.
It's much more complex than that.
Well, I think over the last year since we've talked before, and I know you brought some stuff you're probably going to allude to, but there's a lot that have changed in the last year. You guys are really moving, and because you just blew me away with the 3D M4 piece that you printed for us last time, and now it's getting a little more intricate, a little more detailed, and I think you're broadening your horizons a little bit.
Yeah,
so.
well, definitely. And the big thing is we opened our makerspace. So a year ago we were based out of the library still, and now we have our physical location. We're located in the Tri-County Council building across from Route 50 from Warwick. And we've got a good space there with a shop area, a 3D design area, an education space we can hold classes in, and a variety of equipment. We've got everything from, like I said, woodworking equipment to 8 3D printers, a laser cutter, and CNC machine. And the big thing that we want to try and get people to understand is you don't need to know anything about any of these things before you come in. We teach you everything. So if you have, for example, you want to make something like the laser cut the laser cut candle holder that we have, it's a very simple design process, and the output on that is very fast. It takes about 3 minutes to cut something like that. 3D printing, a slower process, but we can do all sorts of things there. We actually can print with wood, and the whistle that we have in front of us is made out of a plasticized wood, and it actually works. We also have, we've gotten just recently our 3D printer that can print 4 colors at once running. So really neat technology, not too many people have that. The challenge is that adds a lot to the print time. So you're talking about, for that little gear, about 3 hours to print it.
But I would think, though, in a manufacturing world, though it takes a little more time, but you're saving hundreds of thousands of dollars in prototypes by being able to do that now versus, you know, shipping it out to a machine shop or wherever that's done.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the purpose in many cases of 3D printing. I mean, there's many other uses for it of doing one-offs and so forth, but especially with 3D printing and laser cutting, it's much more about creating that prototype to see, you know, if whatever you're designing is going to work and be viable.
I would think that's how I talked about broadening your horizons, stepping into worker training. I would think in many ways, educating people on how to use this machinery would be the natural tie-in from my perspective in how you're helping workers.
Yeah, definitely.
Or potential workers.
Yeah, so we do offer, we offer a lot of classes that are based for adults that, you know, could be considered hobbyist class, but those same skills are definitely pertinent in workforce, and we've structured several of our classes to be specifically for workforce development. We ran a CNC training course where we had Will Corner of TriPro come in, and he taught a week's worth of class on our CNC machine, and then the students got to go to his facility and work on a production CNC machine. Right. We also did a class with 3D printing and 3D CAD where they got to learn 3D design and how to actually take it from concept to design to production on a 3D printer. And those are all skills that are valid in today's workforce.
Oh, yeah. Big time. And becoming more and more needed.
Yes.
And at the same time, harder to find.
Yes.
As main place as this technology is now in many parts of the world, it's hard to find people that can use the technology.
Yeah.
You're working with veterans.
Yes.
Or at least trying to.
We have a program. We've had a lot of interest in veterans to come to work at M4. And so we started a program where basically it's a scholarship program to get funds so that veterans can use those funds and not have to pay for these courses. The first donation of that fund was actually Jeff and Diana Merritt of Minuteman Press, so that started us off on our scholarship fund. And if anyone else would like to donate to that fund, just contact us at M4 Reactor.
Very good.
Yeah, because honestly, veterans or anyone, they could start their business at M4 Reactor if they're into some of these production technologies.
Right. So when the kids come in, let's go back to the kids. When the kids come in, what do they want to make?
Oh, well, the big thing for them is either the robotics or the 3D printing.
Yeah.
You know, the 3D printing, they want to definitely be able to design something and see the output from it. And the tools now are such that it is very easy for even kids to learn how to do 3D design. There's a web-based tool that we use called Tinkercad, which is drag and drop 3D, something even you could do, Tony.
There you go.
But that is something that they really love. And definitely the robotics, learning how to program some of these microcontrollers with just a few lines of code to do different things. We're trying to start up a sumo robotics league, actually,
nice.
where they'll build their own small 20 centimeter by 20 centimeter, which is about 5.5 inches or whatever, robots. And nothing like you see on TV with flames and saw blades.
Right.
It's more about pushing them out of the ring. So,
Gotcha.
and it has to be autonomous. So they have to program it to understand when they get close to the edge of the ring to go the other direction and to find their opponent and push them out.
You're right. Maybe I could use some of this stuff, but I know what I'm built for, and it's not for building those. I understand too that your typical student is typically a young boy.
A lot of times it is, and we really want to change that.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is put together more classes and programs that girls might be more interested in. We've done in the past an Arduino necklace where they actually had to program a necklace that would light up based on either the sound of music or the motion. So if they were dancing with it, it would light up more, that sort of thing. We also are starting a girls' scholarship fund as well to try and promote getting girls in the programs. But I am happy to say we've got an after-school program that we run at the Salisbury School, and we are 90% girls this year, which is wonderful. Yeah.
You bring a lot to the table. All right, so what can we expect in the next year when you come back? What will you have told us? What are you working on?
Wow, there is just a lot going on, especially, looking at the growth of M4. We're working on a partnership with Salisbury University with their Entrepreneur Center downtown. We're looking at expanding M4 Reactor into other towns, Cambridge, Easton, possibly Virginia, into Delaware, and definitely expanding our programming even more. And then finally, to work on the programming aspect, we're trying to get a water jet cutter and more metal equipment so that we can, continue getting other technologies in place to train people on.
It's always interesting when you come in, and you're always welcome because you bring cool things that I can't make. So I would assume, as with many nonprofits, not-for-profits, there's always a need for funding.
Yes.
Can people donate?
Yes, definitely. So the easiest way is we do have a donation online at m4reactor.org, or you can give us a call at 443-736-2113, or just contact me if you see me to be able to make those donations. It could be as small as $5, and we have sponsorships above that for corporations that would like to help.
Thanks for joining us here on this edition of Chamber Chat,
No problem.
Kevin.
Thank you for having me.
We'd like to give you another opportunity now to take a look at the upcoming events with the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce. Welcome back to Chamber Chat right here on PAC 14. Joining us now is Bob Kane from McCrone Engineering right here in Salisbury. Joe, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Today, or this edition of Chamber Chat, there's been nothing but smart people on the show. I started out with the director of operations from K&L Microwave. Then I've got the executive director for the M4 reactor, and he's building stuff with 3D printers, and now I've got an engineer in front of me. That's nothing like getting people to ground you.
Yeah.
What I'd like to start with you, engineering, people hear of engineers and they think of math or building things, but there are different types of engineering. Tell us, if you will, what those different types of engineering specialties are, but then where does McCrone sit in that?
Okay, yeah. Well, first of all, you have your mechanical engineers, you have your electrical engineers, you have your chemical engineers, and then you have your civil engineers. Now, mechanical, electrical, chemical, they all kind of speak for themselves in the name. But then when people say civil,
Right.
well, what does a civil engineer do?
Right.
And civil is basically short for a civilian engineer, and it got the name because prior to being called civil engineering, there was nothing there was no name for it. They were either architects or military engineers.
All right, gotcha.
So a man back in the 18th century, John Smeaton, decided to create a society of civil engineers or civilian engineers, again, as opposed to military engineers. So he created that society, and ever since then, the type of engineers who do things like construct bridges or design and oversee the construction of bridges, roads, dams, are now called civil engineers. They other disciplines within civil engineering are also environmental engineers, who deal with a lot like wetlands, forest conservation, remediation of brownfield sites. And then you have your wastewater engineers, pretty self-explanatory.
Sure.
You have your land development engineers. They do a lot of water resources. Again, construct the roads or help to design and oversee the construction of roads. You have your geotechnical engineers who explore the subsurface earth prior to a building being designed to know that, hey, can the earth handle the stresses and strains of a building built upon it? And then obviously on top of that, you have your structural engineers who come in after your geotechnical engineers, and they do the calculations for your superstructure, for your
Sure.
beams, girders and things like that. Now, a lot of these different projects that we do, we have a lot of the different disciplines working together on the same project in order to make the project come together.
Sure. I mean, it sounded like to me, the mechanical engineering, and everyone knows mechanical engineering. They're building stuff, whether it's site work or whatever. But in your explanation, I'm hearing civil engineering really, in a much greater way, touching the quality of life.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Those kinds of things, the waterways, the grasslands, all those things that most people take for granted, but someone has to be there to survey or to do calculations on organisms in the streams and rivers and those kinds of things. So the things that really, in a day in, day out, touch the fabric of everyone's life.
Right.
So give us the history a little bit, if you will, of McCrone. Another big name that everyone's heard of, but maybe don't know a lot about the history.
Right. So there's a few, we call them for this area big engineering firms.
Sure.
In the area. I would put McCrone in sort of the medium category, but the one thing I would say about us is that we have been around the longest out of all of the engineering firms in the area. We're actually celebrating our 80th anniversary this year.
Congratulations.
So thank you. John Roy McCrone started the company as a surveyor back in 1937. He had a couple of partners he started with, or guys who worked for him, who didn't stick around for too long. About a year later, in 1938, a man named Fayette Latham joined with him as a rod man. So pretty much it was him, surveyor, and his rod man, the guy who holds the rod and runs around and does all the grunt work for the engineer, or for the surveyor. Sorry, and then from there. They started building a clientele, and they had to put things on hold during the war. World War II broke out, and a lot of companies had to put things on ice, so they had to stop for a while. But very shortly after the war, the two got together again and started up McCrone again, and became a partnership, McCrone and Latham. And over the years, McCrone has been through all different configurations of partnerships and sole proprietors and corporations and all that. At that time, so it was Mr. Latham and Mr. McCrone who started the company up again. After that, now there's a little bit of, I was looking into the history, trying to come up with exactly who Jack Latham was. The only thing I can come up with is that was Fayette's brother. So he joined the company, and they actually began a corporation as partners. And they brought on a fourth partner also. Later on in the 50s, when the bridge opened up, they opened up an office in Centerville because they saw an opportunity on the Eastern Shore of untapped, resources, untapped businesses to help grow that, our area.
Right. All right.
And in the 60s, Fayette Latham's son, Latham III, joined the company. And it's funny because, McCrone's name has been on the door since the very founding, but Mr. Latham and his brother and son have been a big part of the company because Latham III actually became the president eventually, and he retired in 2005. So Latham has been a name with the company even longer than McCrone has. And then here we are today. We have 4 offices. We have our main office in Annapolis. We have our office in Centerville. We have our office in Elkton, and we have our office down here in Salisbury. We also do have a small little office in Sussex County that handles our surveying, and we do engineering, land development out of all but the Sussex County office, and we do wastewater out of our Annapolis office, and we do surveying throughout all the offices.
So that leads me to my next question. What disciplines, you just spoke to some of them, what disciplines does McCrone, where do you fit in the civil engineering scope that you gave us earlier?
Right. Well, and I, like I said earlier, some of those disciplines overlap.
Sure.
So, but the main disciplines that we handle are water and wastewater, and like I said, I have our Annapolis office. We have a whole division. You can also consider those guys municipal engineers, because the biggest problem with municipal engineering is what do you do with the wastewater? As we know, we've had issues here in Salisbury with what to do with wastewater in the wastewater plant, and also how do you provide water to thousands of citizens in a municipality. So you have that sort of cross-discipline going on there. Then we have our land development division in Annapolis, and we do land development also in Salisbury and Elkton. But among the land development disciplines, we have landscape architects, we have environmental engineers, we have water resources engineers. Water resources is mainly what I kind of came up to do, but because of the mixture of disciplines you need to do a development, I would say 60 to 70% of a land development is water resources. So I do a lot of land development with the water resources background, and obviously surveying. Surveying is no longer really considered a discipline of civil engineering. It's kind of its own entity now. They have their own professional society. They have their own, I think, 4-year program now. It used to be you take a few classes in college, and you get out in the field and you get your civil engineering, or I'm sorry, your surveyor's license, and that's not like that anymore. Now you have to go to a 4-year college, and so very similar to engineering. But we still group it with civil engineering because obviously the basis for any land development project is going to be that first survey that you do.
Gotcha. Well, it's certainly evident that, just in your descriptions how McCrone has touched, the fabric of everyone's life, and for that, we can only sit back and I hope you keep doing it, because many of us, like myself, we reap the benefits, but we don't always see the work that goes in behind it. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Chamber Chat, and you're welcome back anytime.
Thanks for having me.
And we'd like to thank you for joining us on this edition of Chamber Chat. And as always, if you missed a portion of this show or you'd like to see previous editions of Chamber Chat, we'd encourage you to log on to PAC 14's webpage and utilize their on-demand function, or visit the Chamber's website. That's about all the time we have for this edition of Chamber Chat. My name is Tony Nichols, your host, encouraging you to make a difference.